Let's get reaction now from Tommy Pigott, Principal Deputy Spokesperson for the State Department. Great to have you, Tommy. I've been looking forward to talking to you all day. Let's start with the Atlantic magazine story. We're assuming that these war plans were texted accidentally, right?
Well, look, I'm not going to comment on any context or in any context on the deliberative communications of the Secretary of State.
Okay, so Atlantic does start with an A. Do we think Michael Waltz accidentally added the first person in his contact list? Did the editor-in-chief have the same initials as somebody else that was on this list? How does this happen?
Look, I have nothing more for you. I am not going to comment in any context on the deliberative communications of the Secretary of State.
So you can't answer just how war plans could have been sent to a journalist?
Again, I'm not going to comment in any context on the deliberative communications of the Secretary of State.
Let's move on. The messages were sent over a commercial app called Signal. It's an encrypted app, not through secure government channels. Defense officials told the New York Times that could be a violation of the Espionage Act. Can you talk about that? Because Google has said that Russia state-aligned threat actors are actively compromising Signal accounts. Could that be a concern for the members of the administration?
Look, again, given this story, I'm not going to comment on any or potentially in any context the deliberative communications of the Secretary of State. I have nothing more for you on this.
Okay, let's move on to Greenland then. There's a poll of Greenlanders in January revealing that 85% of Greenlanders do not want to become part of the United States, despite what we just heard from President Trump. So what's happening here? Is the administration simply antagonizing people there at this point, especially with the majority of people living in Greenland saying they don't want to become a part of the United States?
Well, look, ultimately, I'll reinforce what the president has said. We strongly support the ability of the people of Greenland to determine their own future, and if they so choose, to join the United States. This visit is about friendliness, and as the Second Lady has said, she looks forward to seeing the historic sites. That's what this visit is about, the mutual prosperity of the people of Greenland and the people of the United States. And as the president has said, the Arctic region is incredibly important for the United States going forward.
You certainly have a lot more insight than me on this subject, and that's why I'm posing these questions to you. The president said people in Greenland are calling, inviting the administration to come. Who is calling the administration, inviting them to come to Greenland?
Well, look, I'm not going to get into those specific conversations, but ultimately what we're seeing here is, as the president said, a demonstration of friendliness. The Second Lady is looking forward, as she said, to going to Greenland. And again, this is about the priority that the American President Trump places in our region, in the American region, and making sure that we're going to these places and also making sure that we're showing that friendliness and showing the importance of the Arctic region to the United States going forward.
I do understand Greenland being logistically valuable to the U.S. It would give the U.S. access to new shipping routes through the Arctic as the ice melts. But what does Greenland get out of it?
Well, ultimately, as President Trump again has said, the United States has a lot to offer Greenland. But importantly, and again, I want to stress, we strongly support the people of Greenland determining their own future. And if they so choose to join the United States, there's many things that Greenland would stand to gain by joining the United States, including a whole host of different issues. But ultimately, again, this is about showing the importance of the Arctic region to the United States, the importance of our region to the United States, and again, prioritizing that leadership and again, that demonstration of friendliness, reinforcing the fact that we strongly support the people of Greenland to determine their own future and join the United States if they so choose.
Any specifics on the host of different issues that Greenland would benefit from this?
Well, look, the president has brought up a whole different set of issues, whether it's trade, whether it's energy, whether it's security. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. The United States is the greatest country in the history of the world, and being a part of it is a great honor for all Americans to be part of this great country. So ultimately, again, we support the people of Greenland's right to determine their own future, but there's a whole host of issues that would benefit the people of Greenland if they so choose to join the United States, and ultimately this is a demonstration of friendliness from the Second Lady.
All right, thank you for that, Tommy. Let's move to what's going on here in New York City. The protests at Columbia University. Some of the protesters were masked. They're protesting what they see as a capitulation from the university towards the Trump administration. Recent action doesn't seem to have stopped these protests from occurring. And again, wearing masks. These protesters are not supposed to be wearing masks on campus. So talk to me about that.
Well, ultimately, what we're seeing across the country is really a new emphasis from this administration on enforcing our laws. When it comes to student visas, for example, when someone presents themselves for a visa, there are certain conditions they have to meet, certain information they have to provide. And then ultimately, once they're in the country, if they don't abide by those requirements for a student visa, then that visa may be revoked. And that's what we're seeing in terms of, in general, the enforcing of our immigration laws. That's why President Trump was elected. That's what President Trump has been dedicated to. And that's what Secretary Rubio, as part of this administration, is also dedicated to, through diplomacy, through making sure we enforce our laws to make sure that our country is safe, our border is secure, and our laws are enforced.
All right, I want to go back to foreign policy. policy. Let's move to Russia, Ukraine, the peace deal. Trump says he wants to get a deal quickly. Putin doesn't seem in a hurry at all. He's raising tough demands that draw this out while also benefiting from renewed talks with the U.S. Is there a breaking point for President Trump here when it comes to this peace deal?
Look, I'm not going to get ahead of these conversations and between all of these parties, but what's important to stress here is that because of the leadership of President Trump, because of the leadership of Secretary Rubio, these are the first agreements, first steps that we have seen towards de-escalation in the Russia-Ukraine conflict in years, the first steps in that direction. And that is because of the leadership of this administration. That is because of the dedication to peace of this administration. And that dedication, that work towards peace that is happening every single day is going to continue as President Trump, Secretary Rubio, and others are dedicated to that peace, making sure that we have a real framework to try to get there. So I'm not going to get ahead of these negotiations. I'm not going to speculate. But what's important here is the progress we are seeing, the first steps towards that de-escalation, which has only been possible because of the leadership of President Trump and of Secretary Rubio.
Thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.